big news on British television today was that something called the social mobility panel, they'd all resigned because they don't think the Conservative government are promoting social mobility and helping people rise up the social scale. It seems they've forgotten that mobility is two ways. For everybody that's going up, there's somebody that's coming down. Do you think all those people who are sleeping rough in doorways in our city centres were born there? Was that their station in life? No, that's downward social mobility. But politicians amaze me, they really do, because one of the things that the social mobility panel was supposed to do was build a fairer society. Politicians are obsessed with fairness, a bit like 5-year-olds in the school playground, Oh, he's got more sweets than me, it's not fair! That's how they are. Well, the politicians are saying that fairness is something that can be achieved. Yes, we can pass some acts in Parliament, we can sit around in our committees and pass a few resolutions, and all of a sudden the world will be fair. They don't seem to understand. Back in 2010, in the general election of that year, the Liberal Democrat leader, Nick Clegg, was talking a lot about fairness, and the Lib Dems were expected to do very well at that election. Everyone was sick of the Conservatives and the Labour Party, and everyone's thinking, the Liberal Democrats, this is their breakthrough year. First time since 1922, they'll be one of the strong parties in Parliament. And Nick Clegg, their leader, is going around, he's talking about fairness everywhere. And it really all fell apart for Nick. One day, he was visiting a hospital, and he was making a speech about fairness. And he's talking to the assembled media there, and he's saying, and under a Liberal Democrat government, Britain will be a fairer place. And the camera was on him as he was standing outside the hospital building, and a notice on the wall of that building said, Children's Cancer Ward. These politicians are going to make cancer fair? We're going to get everybody gets their fair share of cancer. Brilliant, isn't it? But of course, politicians are making sure that everybody gets their fair share of cancer, or at least an equal chance and a better chance of getting cancer. Because for years, despite all their talk about fairness and equality and making people's lives better, they've been allowing food corporations to put toxic shite in what we eat. And this stuff, a lot of it, is known to promote the development of cancer. Get people back to when we used to buy fresh food on the market stall in the street, and we'd take it home and cook it ourselves, and there was no toxic shite in it, just a bit of salt and pepper maybe. Yeah, politicians really failed. The social mobility panel, on the TV this morning, Nigel Farage, the former leader of UKIP, and largely the architect of the campaign that persuaded us to vote to leave Europe. It didn't persuade me, actually. I worked for the EU some years ago. I saw at close hand the waste, the incompetence, and the obsession with regulating everything that this organisation is really all about. And I knew from then we had to come out, there was no alternative. But Farage is credited with engineering that successful campaign. And he was on about social mobility. And he mentioned one of the great facilitators of social mobility was the old grammar school system, which it wasn't perfect. People sat an exam at age 11. I did, I passed it. I went to an elite school. Others didn't pass it, My wife was very intelligent, missed out because she spent a lot of time in the year leading up to that exam. She spent a lot of time in hospital with a back problem and missed out because of that. But she's still a bright person, she's still had a very good life. But the grammar schools took people from the working class who wouldn't have got the opportunity otherwise, and it educated them to enter the professions. And that is social mobility, that is upward mobility, and as I said, there's always downward mobility to match it. But the socialists, the equality people, no, you couldn't have grammar schools. And now, of course, we've got a situation where, more than ever, more even than before state-funded education came in, working class kids have no chance at all. The country is more elitist. Only elitists can afford top-class education for their children. Only wealthy, affluent, middle-class people can afford private tuition or the private schools, or to live in the areas that fall in the catchment of one of the good comprehensive schools. So the politicians are talking about fairness and equality, but all the time they're working against it. They talk about change, and never once acknowledge that change isn't necessarily change for the good. We should talk about improvement, getting better. Not just change, not just cosmetic tinkering around the edges with things, but actually improving and rejecting that which isn't an improvement, such as the comprehensive education system. So, I'm glad that the social mobility panel have all resigned. They were just another useless government organisation, 4 ex-politicians, 4 failed politicians, sitting around in a little committee, passing pointless resolutions, talking about fairness, and picking up big fat salaries and attendance fees and expenses, the kind of money that an ordinary working class guy on an ordinary income would cut off his right arm for. If you're wondering, like it doesn't work properly. But that's beside the point. Yeah, so politicians, just don't take any notice of them. It's all hypocrisy, it's all hot air. They're just going to convince you that they're doing a good job. Really, they're doing nothing. And if they'd stop pretending to do something and just let us get on with it, that would probably be better for everybody, because in the end, chaos works. Try to impose order on chaos and you're going to mess up, because chaos is better organised. Cut my left arm just to be rid of it.